What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome into a special interview edition of the PWTorch Fireside Chat. I'm PWTorch Assistant Editor Zack Heydorn, and with me today, the Impact World Champion, Steve Maclin. Steve, it is a pleasure to have you on the show. You're a busy guy. You've got a lot of things going on. World champion. How's life?
Life is great. Can't complain. Actually, just thinking about it, your fireside. You ever do an interview fireside, like by like a fire pit or anything?
You know, it's on the to-do list. It's on the show bucket list.
Okay. I just thought popped in my head as you said, "Oh, fireside." I was, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. Okay, you just signed yourself up to be the first guest. If we,
I'll do it. I'll bring the whiskey.
Okay, good. Done. Oh, very good. Well, man, you've had a busy couple months. Such a good run with Impact. I want to start with just the world title win. I mean, you're getting, opportunity. You had a great match to win the belt, but now you're at the top of the company. Like, what does that mean for you? And how does your mindset change when that belt is put on your shoulder?
It's awesome to know that I have the trust from the company to be the guy right now. Whether people see it as I'm the guy or somebody else could be the guy, I feel I am. If you're holding the world title, that means you are the guy. So it's very cool to know I have that trust. To beat Kushida, who's one of the best talents in the world. He's just such a great wrestler in Toronto at Rebellion. Was just an awesome night in general. And then my wife, I get to watch her win the title right after. So just like, yeah. It's just been the past couple of months have been crazy. And then with PCO this past, was it already 2 weeks ago almost, at Under Siege and the no DQ match up in London, Ontario, the ball's just rolling downhill right now. If anything, there's momentum of a ball going uphill, and it's just fun right now. The buzz around Impact Wrestling in general is just getting bigger, and that's the cool thing too as well, to try to go out there and kill it every night on my end. And that's where I put a lot of the weight on my shoulders too, to go out there and have the best performance possible and make people want to tune in and talk about Impact Wrestling.
What do you do, like, on a week-to-week, day-to-day, show-to-show basis to kind of get your mind right to have those kind of matches, and to, not just from a creative perspective in wrestling, but just from a performer perspective, like getting in the ring? Like, how do you, with all that on your shoulders, I mean, how do you make sure that you stay on top of your game on all levels that you got to be on as the world champion?
When I'm home, I'm home. As much as wrestling is never really turned off here, the creative process and the juices are still flowing and the ideas are going, but I try to decompress and relax and let my body get back to normal and still train hard. And that's the one thing, is finding the training regimen that works for me, and also just enjoy life outside of wrestling. My wife and I, we have the 3 dogs here at the house in Florida. So we try to get out as much as possible, going to the beach, and just try to get away from wrestling at times. But of course we can't, because it's just always on our mind of, all right, how can I make this better? Or how do you think of this for a match? And that's the one cool with our relationship, outside of just being a married couple, is the working relationship as well, of being honest to each other of what's good, what's bad, or, hey, I have this idea, what do you think of this? Or my gear is this idea. Like, it never really stops here. And that's the one fun thing for us. And we were talking about the other night too. I was like, what's it going to be like the day we're not on the road anymore? Like, what is that going to be like? Where are we going to be those, like, just old angry people? I don't know. Like, are we going to ever be able to turn off wrestling? Cause I love it so much. And I know my wife loves it too.
Does anxiety creep in when you think about a time not on the road, or is it excitement? Like, what kind of, because I can imagine that you're so used to doing things a certain way, that pivoting from that, I mean, I would think that it kind of, just kind of throws you for a loop a little bit.
Yeah, it was one of those things, like, even when I was at the Performance Center for so long, they would have people come in and they'd have these classes to, like, all right, what's life after wrestling? And it's just like, why am I thinking of life after wrestling right now? Like sometimes it'd be about investments and stuff, which is good to, like, get that mind right, get your money right to save up for after post wrestling. But, like, I don't have anything outside of wrestling that right now that I want to do other than being a pro wrestler. It's just, if my mind is all in on pro wrestling 24/7. So if my mind was elsewhere, that means I'm not loving what I'm doing. But there's some anxiety there. I was like, what am I going to do? My wife's finishing up her history degree. She graduates in July, actually next month.
Good for
So it's
her.
just like she has it set up. Like if she wants to go teach, she'll go teach. But for me, I don't know what I want to do. I think there's something about wrestling that I love, that I've loved as a kid and that I still love now, where maybe I'll become on the production side of it with being a producer for matches or even in the production truck to shoot. The one time I actually got to shoot from camera side for the run in on Sami Callihan at I think it might have been Against All Odds last year in Atlanta. I was a cameraman and I was shooting the camera and they're like actually calling the shots. Hey, get this, get this. I was like, wow, this is actually, the camera's heavy as hell, by the way. But it was just one of those things too, where I'm like, ooh, this is cool. Like I would want to be shown this way of getting the zoom in on my face or so. Like, I don't know. There's so many different opportunities outside of the ring and inside of the ring as well that aren't physical on the body too. So I don't know.
Right. What you talked about, kind of that thing that you love about professional wrestling that you've felt since you were a kid. Like, can you put that into words somehow? Like when you mention that, like what do you mean specifically?
I tried to portray, if I was sitting in the crowd, it was something taught me by William Regal when I first got to the Performance Center. He'd even as an extra, when I was doing extra work before I was hired, like one of the first things he kind of said that always stuck with me was imagine yourself as a fan sitting in the crowd watching a performer, but watching yourself. What would you want to watch yourself do that's going to draw your attention to it? And like, I always love physicality and violence. And it's just the suspense of disbelief of how can I make this look as real as possible? And that's our job. And that's what I think makes people invested into a story, where you're not looking at something and just going, oh, that's choreographed or that's staged. It's one of those things where you just get lost in the moment. And that's where I love as a performer as well, is where I can get lost in the moment, where if I do forget a spot and then something just organically happens in the match that you didn't expect to happen, then it pays off.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, it's one of those things that's a performer where things where if you don't play an A to Z every time and you leave a little bit in there where you can adapt to some situations, it's a lot of fun. But for me, it's just that adrenaline rush is there all the time. That's also another thing. Me and Swan were joking about it the last tapings of you remember my sacrifice video when Stone Cold's, when you lace up them boots and you hear that glass break, it's just 100% pure adrenaline, right? Like just, it really is. It's just, once you're going at that curtain, I just feel alive more than I am in real life. You go out there and you're just, I'm a big kid again. I'm still a big kid every day.
Yeah. Okay, I want to talk about the kind of your character in Impact Wrestling right now. I mean, I feel like you've found, just the Steve Maclin voice, and everything is clicking and making sense as you kind of combine that with winning the world title. You've got a character that's humming on all cylinders. What went into like constructing that character, and how much freedom do you have in Impact to kind of lean into what's working and make that character your own?
So finding who I was kind of ideas I've had from my time in NXT and getting called up and waiting and just constantly creating and building a body of work with certain ideas. And I would always pitch ideas there and it would just, oh, no, not for you kind of thing. And so it's like, okay, cool. But having those ideas written down in my phone or in a notebook and saved. And then once I was let go, I was like, all right, cool. This is what I want to do. I want to shoot these vignettes. I don't care if it gets me anywhere or anywhere else. I'm putting them out there for the world to see on YouTube. I want people to understand when they see me on the independent scene what my character is, and I can build off of that. And then I was lucky enough to go to one of the Impact shows that Deanna was on, and I was just going to watch her. Tommy Dreamer and I got to talking, and we weren't even talking about wrestling. We were just talking about the Giants and football, and then just life in general. And just eventually down the road, we talked about wrestling, and then that's how those conversations started. And then once I got to Impact and they had the ideas of bringing me in, they saw my vignettes. They said, we love these. How can we use these? I was like, you can use them. I made them myself. So it's just one of those things where my work and my investment in myself paid off. And it was great to have friends. My buddy Tanner and Ramker both helped me film those vignettes, both in the VA, and both have had experience in film with NASCAR and stuff behind the scenes. So it's cool to take that investment and put it there. And then originally Impact's like, oh, we're going to kind of do this version of it, but like make it our own. Okay, cool. And then they said, hey, we're just going to use your vignettes. And I'm like, yes, thank you. Like, thank
Yeah.
you so much. Like, that's where like the confidence in myself started to build. And then did it suck to debut without a crowd? Yes. Because then it's just you have nobody to feed off of. You're trying to show a new character. You're trying to like be something different than what I was and how I feel to portray it. But now I have nobody to feed off of in a crowd. It was like the equivalent of it. What I said was like shooting a porn, where you had the 3 cameras on you and the 2 performers in the ring. There's nobody making noise except for the 2 people grunting in the ring. It
Yeah.
was very weird. That was my equivalence of an analogy. And I was like, oh, this is like porn.
Yeah. Well, now that the audience is back.
Oh, it's the best feeling in the world. That's the lifeblood of pro wrestling.
Yeah.
That's the only way we can better and see what works and feed off of, where we can hear something. And that's where the experience comes in as well, where you're working television, but also listening to the crowd, remembering what you're supposed to be doing or getting to next. But then also being able to listen to the crowd and what they like, or something you said. Like even this past week with Alex Shelley saying, yep, it started to catch on. The crowd started chanting. I'm okay, cool. They put it out as a t-shirt.
Right.
And that's one of those things where that you just have to listen to the fans. The fans are the lifeblood of pro wrestling. They're the ones that fill the seats and pay our paychecks. So like they pay our bills. So it's just one of those things where, again, back to your original question, is like you build that confidence and you're given that opportunity. And that's what Impact's given me, is the opportunity to find myself. And now as the Impact World Champion, like it's cool. Now I have the world title with me. How do I evolve even more?
When you are working in the ring, either for a promo that you're cutting or a match that you're having, and obviously yourself is on display, your character's on display, you're working. What, like, is there anything that you look for specifically from the audience in terms of like a reaction or a look, or like that tells you outside of volume that, hey, this is working, this is clicking? Like, how do you stay confident in your character and your direction with an audience out there? Is it just volume, or is there other things from them that you look for while you're performing in the ring?
I'm always listening. I'll watch matches, but I'll even just stand by the curtain without watching. I'll just listen.
Okay.
Hear how a crowd's reacting to certain things, or at the monitor, I'll go, if I haven't been watching it, but walking around like, hey, how's this going? Is the crowd reacting to this? Are they want this?
Okay.
And that's just where my mind goes instantly, just from the time being and listening to people. Like, hey, listen to the crowd, watch the matches before you and see how people are portraying, because then it lets you evolve your match and make it different from everybody else. And that's what I always want to try to do, is be different from everybody else. Whether people like me or not, like I'm trying to do different from what you're seeing on television all the time, just because that's the only way to get better. That's the way to stand out as well. But for me, like for promo wise, like I want to hit my lines, hit my points, sell the pay-per-view or sell the match that we're building to, and then we'll feed off of that and see how it goes. And then Impact's really good at these video packages on the pay-per-views. Friggin' Eric Tompkins in the back, and just everybody on the production side with Jimmy Jacobs and Robert Evans, and just everybody just gets these stories together. And if you're a casual fan and tuning in just that night, especially at Against All Odds, you're going to tune in. Me and Shelly have had a 3-week buildup for this pay-per-view, but there's a lot of story involved into it too. He's got 20 plus years in the business with never winning a title, the major title, I should say. He's a decorated champion around the world, but he's never won the Impact World title, which he's known for TNA and Impact Wrestling. So it's one of those things where now you're having these packages come together within a 3-week period, and people are invested into a story. And I get invested to it too. That's what also I want to be invested in the story as well. Why are we doing this? And that's the fun part about it.
So how excited are you to work with Shelly on a big stage like this?
Oh, great. We've gotten to work previously before, and then also the history we had with our time in NXT when I got the tag against him and Kushida there, and he was coming in, and we had a few house shows before the Dusty Cup the one time. It was funny because he's coming in, and they said, hey, you got Shelly and Kushida. Like, all right, cool. I already knew our place. We're just showing them the ropes of how TV wrestling works in WWE and how do we make this work. And it was just great to he came in. He's like, hey, like, what like with ideas. I'm like, maybe like the producer might not like this. Let's do it this way. Like, because this is kind of what they want. I've been in this situation so many times. So just to have the evolved relationship now and to be opponents at Against All Odds is, and to share the ring with him again it's awesome.
Okay, let me pivot. I know we only have a few minutes left, so I want to pivot to something that I think is just for me, it's really interesting. So you're coming in like as champion, Josh Alexander dropping the title, leaving because of injury. You're the guy coming in and winning that title. How does what's your mindset, with Josh on the sideline? Is it okay, I gotta just keep defending this thing successfully and go on this run so that when he comes back, we collide head on? Or is it, do you not even think about that? Like where does, like, his situation fall within your story right now?
He's number one on the list. I know Shelley right now is my target at Against All Odds. I always think of my next match, but the Josh has not left my mind of vacating the title and being the longest reigning Impact World Champion in history. That's the matchup everybody wants. And do I think that it helped in the long run of him going down with injury for the story for down the road for he and I? Yes. Whether I am the champion or not, I think that match is going to happen. Whether again, it's for the title or not. And that's the one matchup people have been waiting for. And I do hope he's healing up well and getting ready and coming back stronger than ever.
Do you have a sense of responsibility in that instance when somebody like that goes down to pick up the pieces a bit and lead the locker room? I mean, it's got to be a major kind of curveball thrown to everybody that, hey, we're on this pretty great run as a company and longest reigning champion, and all of a sudden you take him out of the picture, but you guys are still left. You guys still have TV. You guys still have business to take care of. What does that do for you as, like, kind of not even necessarily the world champion, but just another person and performer in the Impact locker room?
It's next man up mentality. Granted, I'm a Marine. That's the way it is. Things happen.
Okay. Yep.
Somebody goes down in combat. Somebody gets injured. Somebody dies. Next man up. Like, you got to keep moving. The wheel keeps going. Everybody's just a spoke on it, and you just got to keep moving. And that's the one thing is the locker room we have in Impact Wrestling. Everybody wants to make Impact better. Everybody wants to get the buzz keep rolling, and that's what we've been doing. Every card is stacked. Everybody goes out and kills it. Under Siege, I thought, was one of the best cards we've had in a while. Like, I thought it was better than Rebellion. Total as a card, I just thought the show was great from start to finish. And it's just one thing, like, everybody keeps going out, and we're trying to just move that ball even further down the field. And that's the one thing I think as a roster, as deemed as much as the underdog of a company that we are, I don't think we're an underdog. I think people are realizing, holy crap, Impact Wrestling is a great wrestling show. And that's what we all try to provide, is the best professional wrestling out there.
What do you think is the biggest differentiator between Impact Wrestling and the other, wrestling that's out there that people can watch on a given basis, whether it's, big in WWE or even, a smaller independently? How does, in your eyes, what's Impact's niche as, like, hey, this is a reason why you need to tune into this show?
I can think of when I was a kid watching ECW. It was on late at night. You didn't get to really see it unless it was like on certain it was on TNN back in the day.
Yep.
And like, you had to watch
go way back with that one.
Yeah, so it's like one of those things where it's just like, how do I watch this and where do I watch this? Now you have the platforms with Impact Plus on YouTube. You have the app as well. We're on DAZN. We're on the Fight app with most pay-per-views. We're on Access TV. And that's the one thing, a lot of people don't have Access TV. We don't have it in our household, so we watch on YouTube with the Impact Plus and the Impact Insiders. So it's just getting on a better channel at some point, not in a to hit. It's just being on basic cable would more eyes. That would be what it is. And that's also what we always talk about in the locker room, is a lot of the people are like, God, we got to get about more. How do we get more eyes on this? And it's just like, what do we got to do? And I think that's what also puts a lot of pressure on a lot of us. And also I put a lot of pressure on myself to go out there and perform. So I want to get more eyes on us. And I think we're moving in the right direction, which is the coolest thing in the world, where you're seeing the buzz and people are talking about Impact Wrestling. We're on, everybody every week, Busted Open's talking about us with Bully and Mark Henry and LaGreca and them on there. So it's just good to just have Impact talked about, because we are the best pro wrestling, I feel, out there.
All right. So you said Josh Alexander. You have Alex Shelley coming up at the next pay-per-view. Who else is on your list? Who else is in the sights to wrestle, now in the next year or so, if you can? If you could line them up, like, who would it be?
Right now, Alex Shelley is my focus. I know also there's the number one contenders match going on at Against All Odds, was the 8-10-4 or the 10-8-4 matchup.
10-8-4. Yep. Which
is very odd concept, but kind of cool at the same time. So it's pretty cool to see how it goes from a 10-man it's crazy. What a crazy way to get to a number one contender. But that's also the trial and tribulations of getting to the world. So you have to earn it. I did that. You don't just get to walk in and go right to the world title anymore. That's what Impact tries to prove, is to make you earn everything. And for Alex Shelley and I, he's proved for the past 20 years that he is world renowned and a world champion possibly, but he's never been able to capture it. And here I am 2 years into Impact Wrestling, and I captured the Impact World title. And I said I was going to do it the day I walked in the door.
There you go. Steve, thank you very much for the time. Congrats on your success this year. And we'll be watching Against All Odds on pay-per-view. Steve Maclin versus Alex Shelley, Impact World Championship. Steve, thanks for your time. Let's do it again soon. And when I get that fire pit set up, you like you said, you bring the
I'll
whiskey.
bring the whiskey.
I'll have the glasses ready for you, man.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Zach. Thank you.
All right, see ya.